Let's have fun. I'd like to remind you who Winy Maas is. He is one of the co-founders of MVRDV. Most well-known projects include Villa VPRO and the development of the master plan for the Greater Paris region. He also launched an education program called the Y Factory. He worked for Yale and Hong Kong University. And Denis Leontiev is a Russian architect and CEO of Strelka KB. He's a graduate of Strelka Institute. In as little as 5 years, Denis created from scratch a leading urban consulting company in Russia. The company works on standards and guidelines for upgrading streets in Moscow. One of the main projects is Zarya Park and some else. So this is an introduction, and now we have the first question. So here is our first question. When did you realize that you wanted to work mostly with young architects? Winnie, what about you?
Now, what I think is nice tonight that we talk indeed about a kind of situation where we would how to celebrate youngness and how to make that effective in society and especially in architecture and urbanism. And when I was introduced here, I was like asked to reflect upon the situation where, especially in Russia, education can sometimes be a bit classic in most of the institutions, as you said, and can also a little bit intimidating because it's led by older people and basically that somehow have their own already strong opinions for a long time and keep that when they become older. And that is, for me personally, that seems like a nightmare situation because, and why? What is the reason that say, or what's the future of architects that are now studying and that come out on the market in the nearby future, is that it is a complete other generation that is more global, that's more aware about ecology, that has more digital technologies than ever before, and somehow the kind of frozen market of architects and super architects can be broken a little bit by that. And I know that offices like us immediately use you in that way, absorb you. And our office is for 70% around 30 in that way. But it's completely fascinating and it's super needed. So I would not be worried if I would be you. You have the world to explore and to go through. I think we request for you. Is that an answer to this question, Dennis?
More than answer. Denis, если что-то добавить?
So I will also switch to English. I think that we can have kind of conversation with Winnie. I guess that there is kind of the discrimination in this question already. That's it's for us. It's not important, honestly. That young you are not. If we mean emerging, it means that you are open to the new experience. So, in this case, when we design the office or create an office, we always thought about, okay, what kind of problems we can solve and who are the best people to solve these problems. So if we talk about discriminations of getting into the market for the emerging offices or to the foreign offices in the country, for example, should we do something with that and solve this problem? Okay, what type of people we need there? Fortunately, unfortunately, most of the people who want to solve this kind of problems, they are, let's say, from the younger generation. But there are also some which are, I mean, my age or even worse. And or another question is about the how we can deal with the cost of services for the architects. And that's most of them, and you know, the same pressure of the market that give us in 2 days concept which will be not paid and so on. So what we can do with that, how we can promote the young offices and pay them actually for their work. So this kind of the problems needs, let's say, new approach or new people to solve them, because you can't take just guy who is from the established office, he has his big name and everything, and then say, okay, now you don't have to left your job and give this job to some other guys who you don't know. He said, no, of course, I want to protect my team, I want to protect my company, I want to protect my clients, and he will just not be open. So we try to be, in this case, more collaborative and to find people who will follow us in this
So there are no
journey.
quests, Denis. There are no questions, basically. Because what you are mentioning, this kind of nightmare that some people say that you have to do in 2 weeks a design for whatever on the planet, that demands something about education, yes, or how to make that possible, how to give that quick responding and original answer.
No, it's a good question, because also with, inside the office with the team, we also discuss, okay, there are challenges, so we can answer these challenges or we can protect the office from these challenges. For example, if people ask you, okay, you should do in 2 weeks concept in Guangzhou and deliver it. So on one hand, you can say, no, I'm a professional architect, I need 1 month, I need to be paid and blah, blah, blah. Or you can transform it in kind of the new type of the product which you can deliver. On one hand, answering the request, on the other hand, keeping your company from destruction, from...
Well, there are this, in certain educations, like also in the Wife Factory, like students immediately browse through their masters of like browsing through recent designs. We go through Mark, Design, and etc. quickly, and then analyze what has been done and what has not been done. I think such a kind of people is what you need then, huh?
Machine learning in making concepts here. So it's kind of
Будут ли
The
вопросы?
scanners.
Are there going to be any questions? Raise your hands, don't be shy, we'll hand the microphone to you.
Because we have 5 opportunities, 5 questions, and we decided to say, okay, if people want to react on that question, you're very welcome, because otherwise in the end, you don't come back to it. So if you agree with that, or if we have not applied correctly or good enough, please tell us.
На самом деле у нас были вопросы, которые присылали
Actually, we had questions sent to us from
вопросов
our
были
applicants,
адресованы
from
именно к этой
participants,
сессии.
and
Я позволю
most
себе
part
выбрать
of the
один из
questions
вопросов.
were addressed to this
Он звучит так:
session, to
какой
this
самый
meeting.
правильный возраст, чтобы
So,
начать
what is the
изучать
right
архитектуру? Есть ли
age
какая-то
to
граница,
start
когда
studying
уже поздно
architecture? Is
начинать?
there an age limit when it's too
No,
late?
I think that's, for me, there is no age limit, definitely. And I mean, it's quite obvious words that we should change few professions during our, let's say, life, and or being architect as an architect, or architect then as a director of the company, or then as more as a researcher and blah blah. So you're also evaluating the role of the architect. So for me, there is no limit. Definitely, there is a lot of people who start from 50 and are very successful architects worldwide. So.
I agree to that. I mean, if I may use myself as an example, I started at the my first architectural office was when I was 31. It was OMA. So there was a kind of, I was already way too old to start the profession as such. And it's also, your question also is connected to what is an ideal architect also. And then the same, I mean, if age is not only the non-determining, then say background is another one in that way. Personalities, different personalities, and skills. There are already 4 components where, and that variety is actually the beauty of architecture and the beauty of competition also between offices, and the aspect that you have to go always further into a next step as such. So it's not only to deal with age. But having said that, there is of course much more to say. There are people that are older in our office and have a certain kind of experience, and it's also nice to see that some younger come in and beat the older character because he or she is quick and understandable and seeing what is needed and makes an answer to that. So that there is a refined dialogue going on between ages in that way. So I hope I'm a product of that.
Перейдем к следующему вопросу.
Let's proceed to the next question.
Работать с молодыми пока все еще не
Working
норма,
with
скорее
young
переворачивание
architects
статус-кво опытных специалистов.
means
Каково это
challenging
быть
status
революционером на рынке
quo
труда?
of experienced experts. What is it like to be a revolutionary on the job market?
So I will start. I don't know actually what to be this revolutionary on the job markets. I think that's what we see. I mean, if beside the architecture, what we see globally and also within Russia, it's a new way of people, how people understands the or how people and where people desire to work or with whom they want to work. So, I mean, just do your job, it's not enough. So you have to find some new kind of the characteristics of the job. So it's not anymore for the employees what I see, just enough just to do proper job. So they have to understand what is the value of the job, why they do this project. We should now, before it was not so clear, discuss with the people, should we take this project or not? Do they agree also to take this project or not? Even if you need it for profit, and say, no, we will not, so you should agree with the teams. So what is one thing? So people ask more and more on the teams value for the job. This is one thing. Second thing is also the big pressure, what I see from the society. So what do you do for us beside your job? It's also a very important question, which people more and more ask out of the office. Yeah, so, okay, you can design buildings, you can change systems, you can improve public transport, but what else you do for us? This is also quite important thing. And the third one is, in the same time, the pressure of the real market, where you have to take the jobs which are on the market, where you should take the projects, create revenue to pay people and so on. So in between these three things, which are actually quite contradictory, because on one hand, you have to make money, on the other hand, you have to find and grab nice people. These people want to be treated nice, they want interesting projects, they want interesting collaborations, they don't want to be bored and so on. So, and then also with this pressure for society, this kind of the, let's say, new environment, which I think more and more became the reality, which appeared in different forms. So now it's appeared companies which are called like public benefit companies or big corporations, which says that, okay, profit is important, but we have more than just a profit. In the same way, what we do from the beginning in Strelka for 6 years already, we try to, let's say, implement some parts of this, let's say, strategy, even if the Strelka KB is a profit generator company, the main attractor or the main, let's say, donator, those who get the money which we make, is the Strelka Institute. So there is kind of the for profit and for value company in the same time. So this is one of the things. And I think more and more of such type of the companies will appear, even they are not yet officially or legally exist. More and more we will see that this let's say, the way how the people try to mix profit within the value. Yeah, and then this question of value, what you're really doing as a value, became more and more important.
I like your observation on when you start a project and you discuss with each other why and if we should do the project. And also in this first moment to understand basically what you can achieve and why you would like to achieve. That I think is a very good good question. Is it and because you build up a certain criticism, is it good enough? Is it only commercial? Do you only do it for money, or is there a high political complexity in it, which you would like to do something with it? and yes, we try to do it in the office also more and more with some projects that start. I'll give you an example of a last, say, weeks, basically, where we are entering a competition, or we're now finishing actually, for the Pulse Memorial in Orlando. There was a shooting in the discotheque, and they want to have a memorial and a museum. And in the end, 5 teams are selected. And if you then, what we try to do at that moment, because how to do it, to make a kind of memorial for, say, queer people in that way, or actually more than that, we asked to the office who wants to work on it. And that was a nice moment to talk openly, what should we do or should we not do on, say, this subject of integration or not, or the segregation that surrounds it. And that has led to, I think, a great combination of people that were or are queer in the office, or are transitos, which I didn't know, because I never asked that question. It's some kind of normality in that way that somehow came out, but were mixed with straights, and were kind of discussing what is the proper answer, from provocation to non-provocation as such. I think that was a very important moment for the office, to have that kind of discussions and to bring it out to the rest of the community of the office. And so that is, yeah, so I completely agree with you how to make a kind of proper answer. You didn't talk about revolutionary, by the way, Dennis. That's kind of, maybe because your office is not revolutionary?
Yeah, we're for evolution, I think.
Yeah, but evolution you love.
I love evolution, and I think it's very revolutionary to be to like evolution, because I mean the pressure which you get with the evolution, I think it's much more stronger, and you should be much more. Let's say you are under much more pressure when you're evolutionizing the things. Then you are revolutionary, actually, yeah. Because what you do when you make a revolution, you broke the system. When you evaluate the system, I think it's much more challenging thing to do, because you can never fix the status quo. You should also all the time change. You have to prepare new products. You have to prepare new things. All things you did, they are copied. I mean, in a minute, if they are good things, yeah. So you have to invent something more. So this kind of the evolution, really bring us to the place where we are and who we are.
Is that a political answer?
No, I mean biological.
Yeah, because for me, evolutionary is easier than revolutionary.
For me, not. I mean, if you're talking like if you take this term from biology,
yeah.
For me, evolution is kind of the changing under the pressure of the conditions. Yeah, so you have to all the time constantly answer the questions which raised by your environment and find the new answers. You don't have the new answer for the new conditions, you're dead. That's an evolution. Yeah, revolution is that you're not trying to get an answers, you just broke the system.
Maybe it's simply a methodological question that I propose. It's also part of.
You're not just. You need to be brave and
yeah, you need both, because evolution is, of course, a subject we are referring to history. We take our niche market, or your niche market, your appearance with you, to make it better over time, and that's fair. Sometimes shock therapy can help, though. That's the revolutionary aspect.
No, it's a question how we understand it. Yeah, so it's for me, evolution. It's not that things go slowly by themselves. No, that's conditions changed all the time. Yeah, and so you get the answer or you not. So this is why factory. So you have the answer for the question why, or you don't. If you don't have the question, you're out of the race. So the evolution, it's kind of, it's very strong pressure to, and then after you've done the revolution, you need to evolutionate again.
I think it's an important question for people that come on the market. That's why you pose this question. How are you going to work in any organization that has a history and that wants to work on innovation, for sure, and how to participate in that? And I see that there are different methods. That's why I say that, because there are people that come in and they are very precisely analyzing and then helping. So to make an example, there is in a competition, then some people immediately show all the things our office has done, all the pixels, hills, stacks, whatever that has been done, and say that not, or to improve such a kind of methodology in that, to avoid the copy-paste aspect and to bring it to a next step. But there are also others that do the opposite and do that go for another fascination and mirror that with, say, the methodology of the office. I think what we did in Seoul recently with the casino, where we somehow love certain artists and see how that could be applied in this world of the casinos, that came from people that were aiming from the other part. So that's just to give a reflection on the position of younger people in this what for offices and institutes are very important questions: how to innovate and how to develop.
We have a question from the audience. We just received it from, and it's a question to Denis Leontiev. What can Russian architects, young Russian architects, do to be noticed and hired for a cool architectural bureau? Okay, I'll answer in Russian because we've been discussing with Winnie for a long time how we shall be speaking. So I don't know what exactly to do, but unfortunately, I can only highlight my personal experience. When I graduated from the university, I decided not to go to a particular bureau, Russian bureau. That was a conscious decision because I believed that back then that will not spur my career. Instead, it will terminate my career. On the other hand, it's a choice it's an individual choice. It's a personal vision of career, of course. I believe today there are enough opportunities in the world to be noticed and recognized. But success, particularly in architecture, doesn't come immediately. I think Vinny can perfectly confirm that. It's not happening with a click of a button. And you overnight can wake up wealthy and famous with lots of buildings. No, it's a long-term story. And one of my friends told me, we all know the books that are, popular, but there are so many books which are good, but unknown to general public. There's no silver bullet. There's no magical recipe that would fit everybody. But let me be honest with you. I've been practicing for 22 years, and we have this practice within our office. We have young guys coming to our company to work. And if in the end they build up a quality portfolio, we recommend them to go and work abroad, try themselves abroad. After working for Strelka, after working abroad or for other institutions, then people, can actually come up with significant construction buildings. So you're talking more about success, but the question was more about what do you, as an agency, see when you select applicants? The comment was that nobody's looking at portfolio today, so what do you take into consideration in addition to portfolio or in the portfolio? Look, when portfolio comes to office, I believe you receive like 500 portfolios every month from all around the world. We're not that global, but still, we receive lots of applications. And it's a stream. It's a stream that you look through very briefly. And your look is very generalistic. You need to. So something should make you stand out. Another thing that is important is a job interview. We always try to give a chance during a job interview. We try to meet personally with every applicant, and all of the job interviews that we have are hosted with my personal participation. And there are project heads, there are partners present at the job interview, so it's an open and transparent system. So any applicant has a few minutes to clearly explain him or herself and tell what he or she wants to do. If the person knows that, he will belong. If not, if he doesn't know what to do and just says, I want to get to you, to know what to do, and to figure out how to live, more often than not, we don't hire those people unless it's somebody extremely brilliant and ingenious, or there's something super specific in portfolio or experience. Otherwise, we are moved by people who come with a clear understanding of why they come and what they want to convey. So either the applicant hooks you up and you want to move forward with him, or not. Winnie, is it the same for your business, for your company?
Yeah, there are two elements that I would like to reflect upon what Denis just said, but let's start with the back, how people come into our office. There are basically 2 or 3, say, entrances. One, if we request for specialists, that is, and you see that on our website, then normally for the very experienced specialists, you need longer procedures to get high-end people that have a building experience or a project leadership experience or scripters or no. So there is a range of, and that then indeed you talk with people to find out how it fits. That's one. Second element is that we need also just a general group of people and which you don't know what they will bring along. And for many reasons. One of the reasons is very practical, to be honest. At the moment that an office becomes more than 300, 350 people, and there's a logic rule, and that you want to, that maximum 50% will have a fixed contract. Otherwise, in the creative industry, you cannot handle the different times of economies as such. But just a calculation, because that means that for this 175 people that are not fixed, that have, and in Dutch law, after 2 years you get a fixed contract. That means you need every week a substantial amount of people coming in and going out, in a way. So it's a logistic operation also, for better and for worse. I want to share that with you, to give you, because I understand that you would like to know today, not about why, as you would say, but about how offices are doing with that. And this is a way, as a side effect, it means also there's an open, it's also quite open. It means also that people emerge, grow, become more specific in those 2 years that they're there. They find their way. Some of them go more in that niche and others in that way. They talk it over. And so it's also more like a mini school that you do offer, basically, in those 2 years of certain kind of development. And yes, from that group, there are many people that stay and that in that way develop, because they start to learn, they see what is not happening and what is happening, and they're evolutionary in themselves, and they contribute to that. Second element that I would like to the third system, say somehow of this, how people find their way to an office like us, is simply because of you know them because they are stagiaires, or you know them at the Y factory in that way. That's also very honest to express that. If I look back to myself, I said already 31, and then I became an architect, first job, and a job that was paid. Before that, I think I had 10 times I was a stagiaire, because I know that it's underpaid. You only get 200 euros a month in that way. And it's very easy to go to an office, to Eisenman, and say, oh, I am here, I stay for 3 months, and I do it. Or to REM, I cost nothing, and I do it. So it was actually a super system. It was like I could go to all these places, could shop around. So that is still the advantage when you're studying. take that advantage. I would advise to find your career also. And that's, I think, what I liked in your observation is think about what you would like to do in life. And there are many ways of dealing with that, from obsessed by technology, to obsessed by management, to obsessed by economy, or to obsessed, I don't know. You can paint in that way a little bit your own future, and with this kind of supermarket system of stages, you can also mix them into that direction and be prepared as such. So that's a way of answering your question, how to make your career.
Я даже добавлю, что у нас есть такой, есть.
I'd like to add that we have this thing, portfolio, not portfolio, but as Winy said, in creative industries, the graphic and the schedule is often fragmented. And the workload is not homogeneous. There are like brief, high-paced projects sometimes. And don't be afraid of that. This is the project in a framework of which you can show what you can do. And this quick hiring, we also have it at Strelka. And we build a large pool of specialists, a large pool of people who form this kind of circle, family. And later on, some of them grow to become super particular niche professionals. A few years ago, 3-4 years ago, we had stagiaires who were at the 5th or 4th year at the Moscow Architecture University. Now, today, they're heads of projects. Why? Because back then, they were not afraid to dive into this pool and sink or swim. So this stagiaire position is the exercise to show that you can swim without actually swimming too far. And these quick jobs, they always come up. But in reality, you have to jump in and sail with the team. And many people who come to our office stay through this trainee stage program, through this pool, often doing certain projects. Okay, to continue with the next question. Oh, we have a question from the audience. Brilliant, finally. Congrats. People are not shying away anymore. Hi there. Thank you for the answer that you gave. Question maybe that would continue the previous one about key competencies that you expect from young or not very young experts. So, tell us about the competencies that will be in demand in the future, those competencies that will define future architecture, because some competencies will become probably redundant. What will become essential?
I think it's the next question and next slide. You can put it on. Can you put the next slide? Show it. Here. This is your question. So that's... So it's very good. Thank you for taking over your role. And there are many skills, to be honest, in that way. And some of the skills are underestimated in our education systems. As we speak, we need text writers, for instance. And certain people can do that very well. And they want to do because communication becomes much more important than ever before. And especially in urbanism or larger projects, I think that is a task. Not only as a kind of advertisement text, but also as an argumentative component, as also it steers sometimes our designs, because that makes it also clearer what we would like. So that's a challenge for, I don't say that we need 100% text writers, and yes, beside that you need to be an architect or you need to be a designer, but it's definitely a skill that is somehow not, often not mentioned in our schools. And it is accompanied with the moment, as one thinker was saying lately, that beside the world of digits, we need the world of words. More than ever. And now when you start in Strelka in November, maybe an over-digitized course, we'll see with Benjamin, but in a way it's true. And then, because in the words, you have to accompany the digits. Having said that, the second part of, say, skills, that is, and it depends a bit about the office. I guess you will do it also more and more, but the world of algorithms is anyway a world that I adore personally, but also that demands scripters. Now, if I look to the European education system and to see what people do in the bachelors in general, the scripting is bad and super bad. And that leads to people outside of the architectural world to come into that. And that is just to, and I guess that will be more and more important in the coming time. But there are more tools to suggest to you. These are actually quite obvious as such. But there are people that love basically also building in such a kind of simply craftsmanship is fascinating if you can really make bricks that make it better and that you will have the interest of making that. And that is also part in this kind of conglomerate of these offices that will be there. Is it classic? No, because new materials are things that we have to address much more and more as such. So these are some of the skills that maybe I would like to add on. And last but not least, I think also super organizers are also really helpful. I think for you also, that can maneuver, say, over the planet or over, say, a zone in the planet to orchestrate where projects should go to and to make strategic demands of to ourselves, where to go to or where not to go to. That's also a group of people that become more and more important. You call them business developers, and I think that that's a kind of too separatist almost. But the business development should be almost within the work itself, within the way of designing, and within the way of argumenting how to go to that. And yes, we need people that can do that and that have that skill also to do that. And that's just to give you a small list of adding to your question. Do you have more roles, Dennis? No skills.
So, I think that's no. First, within our office, to make it clear that we are not the design office as I mean classical architectural office. Yeah, so we create this niche of pre-design, answering question not why and not how, but more what. So for us to find the right solution within the city, this is our product. So that's what we deliver. In this case, what we see, like in our last 5 years, how the things goes, that we have the less and less architects within the office. So if we start when we were very few, it was 100% architects. Now I think maybe it's a 30%, 25%. So if you want to work within the cities, if you want to know, if you understand the city as a system of a bunch of systems, you want to update them, you need all kind of the specialists or people with experience besides the classical architectural education. So we have geographers, we have economic geographers. I would love to work with guys from physics, from biology, the guys who work from, I don't know, chemistry, all these real scientific people. I think now they do understand about cities much more as a system than classical architects. So I think that what we will see, there will be a lot of people from other disciplines which will try to play their role within the urbanism and within the cities, try to find a solution for the cities. So this is one thing. Second thing is that about the big challenges which we have in general, globally and in Russia, which might be also interesting for young people to understand, okay, how I can contribute to these challenges. So one of them, what we discussed already, is that the earth itself became an object of design. Yeah, so we start talking more and more about the global system of cities, how this system or this network should be organized, how it works, what are kind of flows there. So for that you need a complexity theory, a lot of things which are out of classical education for the architects. And you should go there by yourself, or you should go there within some additional education. Second thing is about ecology, and it's clear that sooner or later this global issue should be, it's already raised, but we need new solutions for that. Architects, spatial planners, they should find some solutions or should work under this issue, so it's not, no, it's a big part of your work, would be in the future, but you have to find your new skills to try to solve these problems. And third thing is, I guess, it's city itself, like an organism or like a complex system, which we see needs more and more faster update of its, let's say, core system. It's mobility, or it's education, or it's culture. So it's evolving or evolutionizing faster and faster and faster. Maybe it will be so fast, it'll be a revolution, so constant. And in this case, so if we talk about these new candidates or new professions, I think this, no, you might think about these global trends, on one hand, in urbanism. On the other hand, to try to get mix of your classical architectural education plus something. It can be in management, and can be in science, it can be in social science, if we call it, if we can call it science. And so then it's really mixed. For us, people who have 2 or 3 layers of education, they are much more needed, let's say, than just classical architects, that's for sure.
ГЭС-2 нас не щадит и не готов слушать наш разговор, но мы будем к ним лояльны.
Okay, let us continue then. You both mentioned how education impacts skill sets of young architects, and there's a question about that. What educational systems are lacking to make architects more adaptable to current changing working conditions?
You, whatever.
Winy?
I think what the discussion here is already giving is suggests already certain kind of elements that could be dredged into our say our educational system, and the question is how to do that from this mix. What I agree with Denis, of like working with the chemical persons or with the biologists on the world or on the future is as important as also deepening, say, digital technology, or deepening, say, the three-dimensional drawing skills that we have. So, and I must say that there is that doesn't exist as a school yet. This dream that we are. I met last week like a person from the theater world who would like to start a new education in Belgium, which is one of the best, say, theaters in the world, to make a school where everybody is in, all this kind that you could meet. And what kind of format do we need to get then a depth in that way? That's a good question to ask. I think Strelka tries it a little bit in its education, post-academic education. Could we imagine that also for the master's education? For sure. As a system in Europe, we can organize ourselves in such a way that we do 2 things. That we offer, say, there are 50 master schools in Europe, and every school does something different. That's one, so specialization. And secondly, a kind of a moment that you sit together, that you force people, or be not forcing, but to enhance this kind of possible exchange. It seems to me easy to do, no? But we don't organize ourselves in that way in Europe. And we have that Erasmus program to do it, and we have an EC research program also to address. So I'm still waiting for that moment to create that kind of platform of master schools. Should we do that also in bachelors? Bachelors need to give you as many as possible skills. So exactly the list that we have made already, you have to get those pieces in it, I guess, and to make that. And you can find it on the internet, but to push that a little bit further, that's what the bachelor could do. So this maybe creates a kind of way of putting it into our education.
Денис?
Yeah, to continue what Vinny said, I think that's what's first what was mentioned is a holistic approach. So now more and more holistic, still very holistic approach. Understand it as okay. We have an economist here, we have an architect, and we have geographer. And three of them, I mean, knowing each of them know its own tools, and they try to match the project. So the real holistic approach, which I see more and more, or should come, is that when you are in the same time, do understand by yourself ecology, geography, IT, and yes, you are based, one of the first person is architect, for example. But you need to know these people and understand what they are talking to you. Yeah, it's not kind of that creates a project like, okay, economist make his project, then he gave to another one. So it's not anymore the linear process of developing and switching from one profession to another. Holistic approach is really mixing all these things, and that's what's specifically, I think, education here within our country, no, it's lack of this kind of skills. So I really, let's say, push you to get some more skills than your let's say initial education, one thing. Second thing is environments. What I find, I mean, it's more about our internal, I think, country-wise situation, that if you don't see the environment which is interesting for you, go to another place, definitely. And I think that's what's the lack of this, let's say, very intellectual environment or skillful environments, or with the people who you might think can be your, it's not question of heroes, but someone who is in whom you are interested in. If you can see them in your school, run away. Definitely, you don't have to spend their time just to take this paper, or try to find them somewhere else and keep this institute if you want. But this environment issue, I think it's very important, because this is only the way how you can evaluate and how you can find something which is not, which you not have already or just on the lectures which you read.
Будут ли вопросы в этом месте от нашей аудитории?
Are there any additional questions from our audience at this stage? I see the hand over there, do I?
У меня вопрос к Денису Леонтьеву.
Question to Denis
Если я
Leontiev.
правильно поняла, то модель
If I
Strelka
understand correctly, that
строится так,
Strelka's
что
model is built
люди
that
работают
people work
на каких-то проектах, и
for
когда проект
some projects,
заканчивается,
and when the
то
project
они,
is
то есть
done,
как бы людей на фиксированных контрактах не очень много для
people
того, чтобы
leave. So
оптимизировать
there's a limited
расходы.
number of
Но в связи с этим
people
вот
who work
хочу
on fixed
спросить, а
contracts
как
so that
быть
you
тем, у кого
optimize
там
your
какие-то
costs.
есть
But
обязательства, там семья, ипотека? То
what
есть
do
это
you
значит, что
do
им,
when
в
people have
принципе,
commitments
это
like
не очень
mortgage payment or
подходит, да?
family? So
И,
I
в
see
общем,
that those
вдруг
kind of people
себе
would
позволить
not
как
really
человек
like
очень
working for a company.
амбициозный,
So
чаще
only
всего там
a
одинокий,
single,
который вот может
without a
просто,
family,
ну, действительно понимает,
ambitious
что это очень
person
крутое
can
место,
afford
важно
going
для
to Strelka
развития,
and actually
позволить себе, допустим,
dedicating
полгода
time to
работать, а
working there, so that the
потом,
person
ну,
can
как
allow
бы он
spending
тоже
6
понимает,
months
что,
working at some
возможно, там
occasional
дальше не будет
project
продолжения.
with
То есть
realizing
вот
that there
можно
might
поподробнее
not
расскажите,
be
вот какая
any
там модель,
continuation.
да,
So
сколько людей
maybe you'd
фиксировано,
give more
сколько вот на
detail
этих
about that
проектах,
model.
да,
How many
и о качествах,
works, how
которые
many
нужны
people work
человеку,
for fixed
который вот на это
contract,
претендует,
how many people are
психологическая устойчивость
freelancing,
определенная, наверное, нужна
because you
для
need
этого.
some, psychological resilience to remain in Strelka. Many questions in one. As Vini has mentioned, if we talk about creative industries, without mentioning any particular figures, at least 50-60% of the people who work for your company are on the contract, permanent contract, and say 40 to 50 is a variable segment. And the question is how you manage this company in creative industry. Challenge number one is that you have a constantly changing volume of work and commissions. So it's not a pipeline. It's not that they constantly buy the gas or oil that goes down the pipeline. It's always variable, so you need to hang on till the next project. It's like surfing surfing down the waves, up and down, up and down. You always need to catch the next wave. That's overall the situation that binds any creative business. You have to be constantly looking for this new wave to catch, and that wave will carry you for a while, but eventually you will have to find a new one. Vini has been surfing like this all around the world. We have just beginning to catch these waves. But a few things that I have been saying about benefit companies. For 5 years, we turned from startup into a business. So when you become a business, the range of your commitments in front of your employees, of course, is increasing, is broadening. Of course, we have many people, again, I don't know the exact figure, but I'm afraid to make a mistake, but a significant percentage of people are working in a framework of a fixed contract, and that's benefit for the company, because if people work over 2 days in a company, they are already, become a definite employee, and they get the benefits similar to any other employee. And we see that the most talented people want to grow beside projects. They want to make personal researches. They want to get academic degrees. They want to arrange and host social projects. So we try to arrange programs when we give our employees some time, which is paid, so that he or she would be able to introduce personal projects. It's not that he's saying, I'm just going to be doing like this thing. No, he actually had to validate and show what he's doing. Be it social activities, personal researches, inspiration projects, self-initiated projects overall. Might be articles or something. So it's not that we can afford this for everybody or dedicate too much time for that, but we are deeply interested in giving people time to grow personally. As far as projects go, there is Strelka Institute. That is the non-commercial educational non-for-profit entity. And there is Strelka KB. That is for-profit company which needs to earn money. And it works as a business. There are employees, but the income and the profit that Strelka KB Construction Bureau gets is pipelined into the activities of the institute. So employees of KB do realize that the value of their job is not just, their salary, but their contribution into making Strelka Institute work and exist. They realize that their work finances educational programs of the institute. As a matter of fact, the latest question was related to management. Thank you so much. You're actually following our program today. So let me highlight the question once more, maybe request Vini to answer. So how would you describe the approach to managing your company? Describe the approach to managing your company.
What can we add to this? What Denis said about how to manage a creative industry over time during crisis, and their young generation plays an important role in it without abusing, but also trying to imagine careers, side effects, club feelings, new marriages in our office. So these things, all this melting pot that was described is exactly the beauty of it. And some people can really go along with it, others less, to be honest. So that's also what you can see. They disappear again and find other ways of dealing with it. And personally, I think that the concept of the melting pot is incredibly important. That doesn't mean that you need agendas to make choices and to say this is important for the coming time. That market is important. What do we do with say with the US these days, or in which piece of the US are we going to work on? What do we do with the Russian market in this case, and where to participate or not? So things come and things you choose, and you try to establish with the whole, say, family, in a way, somehow a kind of relationship to make that more clear. That is for me the most important part of this, say, operational component of generally a younger group. And yes, we chose to be in a city. I mean, there are also offices that want to be in the countryside, but we think that is very important for such a young group of people to be also in a city, close to universities, close to other potentials also, close to inspiration and close to exchange as such. And yes, we also think that it's wise to have not only an office in Rotterdam, but also in Shanghai, and also in New York, and also in Paris, so that also things can change and move over this parts of the world to which for certain people is fantastic, and also is from marketing and from market point of view is very important to be compulsory. So these are maybe some kind of say elements that that I think how an operating in this world is happening. So it's a one hand it's a club, on one hand it's a city performance. Yes, it's about energy, hopefully to give that. It's also a challenge, always. There's not a perfect answer. It's also about surprise, and to be surprised, also as a, now I talk as a manager for a moment, because I love that also, and that is how this culture basically works. And last but not least, I think the component of research in the office and in urbanism, so beyond architecture as such, helps us to maneuver easily with that younger generation, because they can work in that field easier sometimes. They are also more sometimes committed to the word research as such, and that make it also a tool of operating this company.
Yeah. So I think I just want to continue answering the question which was before, is that in general, I mean, entrepreneurship, it's never safe. Yeah, and you can't, let's say, wait from the entrepreneurship organization, yeah, which should always seek for the new clients, new projects, as a safe environment as from some, I don't know, government structures or some big companies. Yeah, it's a bit different way of just organizing the business. So these melting pots, on one hand, it cannot be safe, yeah, but it can give you, I think, also so good stats. That's as we see within our office. So some people go then to, I don't know, chief architects positions within the cities, or they go to the bigger companies in high tech or everywhere and so on. But this kind of, okay, you worked in KB for 2 years, okay, no, we can give you even position which I never think people can get in my office. They getting it outside because they have this kind of the stamp of that, yes, they survived in this environment. So that means a lot for the other employees, which I think is quite good. So someone really like this type of the rhythm all over the long life. Some needs it just in the very beginning for a few years to try. It's very depends. Some people just run away, just they appeared into the office, they see it, and they said, okay, no, it's not my type of environment, so it's fine. Everybody should find it. When I talk about the approach to operate, when we start the company, and it was, we discussed and they said, okay, so we have to use the metaphor of a football team. And this is, for me personally, it's very important that you can be associated with a very strong brand, but still you can be an independent star. So this, specifically for the young, let's say, architects or for the young professionals, this ego issue is very important, where I am within the project. Yeah? So for us, this metaphor of the football team, that it's very horizontal structure. Yeah, you play your game, you have your team, you make your goals, you are known, and you are then in front of media or whatever, defending your project or describing. So there is no kind of the pyramid which said, okay, there is one person and who get all projects done by him, all, I don't know, all books written by him, all research is done by him, and so on. No. So we have very, let's say, network structure within this. Of course, it brings some another challenges, like, yes, we allow people to play, or I allowed people to play, and I, let's say, wait till the final score. But if someone plays bad, it means team lose. Yeah, so there is the responsibility. People should find their responsibility. They are not responsible only for themselves, they're also responsible for their team, and they have to communicate with the client or with the project. I mean, they have to share this responsibility. On the other hand, it doesn't mean that you don't have to allow making mistakes. Yeah, so, but you have to, I mean, my work as a manager is to allow to make as many as mistakes, which not bring to collapse the company. But 50% of them you should allow to realize. Then it can create some kind of the innovation. So for us, this football team approach, I think it's the more, let's say, suitable way to manage that.
I want to add to your observation two elements. I'm always fascinated when I'm going to the movies, and I hate when people stand up at the end of the movies because I want to see the complete film roll. I'm obsessed by understanding and impressed by all these roles people have, and that they are acknowledged in a very somehow beautiful way. Is what. So somehow I find that always a model for our books or for our works to see, yeah, what a tremendous amount of energy comes out of this kind of enormous role of people that are participating in that. And I would like to add that to how to operate. Yeah, you give, hopefully I can make that every voice that's participating, every, say, specialism or personality somehow gets a voice in that way, and that you make it more clear. That's what this kind of role, this kind of final 5 minutes of a movie for me somehow tell. And that's what I would like to add to how to work on this kind of conglomerate.
Спасибо большое за ваш ответ. Это был на самом
Thank
деле
you so much for your answer. That was question 5. As a matter of fact, the audience is welcome to ask 2 more questions. Please raise your hand. We'll hand you the mic. Or the question from Dan Rosegaard.
Thanks for the open conversation. I worked as an intern at MVRDV long time ago. And so I can really relate to the open structure that you just told. I can validate that. But what I was very surprised by was that every day you have a very long table and you all have lunch together. No hierarchy. And I was curious also with your new building how you designed your own office, your own architecture to enhance this kind of open collaborative thinking. And what in your opinion is the ideal space, the ideal type of architecture to have this sort of open thinking and open doing?
It's a good question, and it can be still much better, to be honest. I think I love that we have a kind of big factory in the middle of the city, like you have in a way, and that is like, and that some of our teams now work actually on the whole neighborhood. So not only our table, but also the mini street that we have next to it, and now the plaza. And that somehow we work on the mobility challenge this week to get the whole neighborhood out of their cars and onto bikes instead of. So that is one aspect, to enlarge it, basically, the formula of the table to outside almost, that I would love. Secondly, I still, teams fluctuate to. There are, of course, Chinese-speaking people that need to work on the Chinese market more. But on the other hand, these kind of halls, they change over time. Because then, let's say, the Chinese amount of commissions reduce, so they have to move to there. That is an aspect. It happens once per half year, that people more or less move also in between. So that's an important element to deal and to share. Another thing that we would like to do is somehow this kind of, we have a kind of quality team, terrible world, but in a way that how to get criticism also in our group, because especially certain, maybe younger people are not afraid of the establishment in an office. The middle group is sometimes, and how to formulate criticism on projects in a way. That is getting there, and it could be much better, but that's what that's also a way of trying to deal with that. And of course, there are people coming in, and we would like to invite you, for instance, are also like giving lectures to do that, a bit like a Strelka model, one could say. We have also the same tribune as you have, or who was first, but that's like, but that's also nice to share. And there is more to do in that way, to invite, to get more people, to get more openness in that way. And I don't know if it's easier when you're smaller, and it's probably harder when you become bigger as an office, to get that, say, that horizontal feeling. And I hope that I personally express that I don't care about hierarchy somehow, and that somehow the youngest have the same voice than the oldest one on many things, and to somehow debate with everybody on that. That's what I still hope to make that possible. Then just to also, it's good to, because about organization, you were pointing at some questions. I think it's also nice, now we have talked with our two organizations. If you put Patrick Schumacher here, from here next to me, he would paint another kind of company. If you put SOM there, on that way, you have another organizational structure in it. So we opened up a little bit of the box, to be honest, and we all need and want to operate in a niche. So we are very careful as a brand, and probably you do it also, to work on what is your quality as such, in a way, including the faux pas, the mistakes that we allow ourselves. There's still the discussion about exactly the casino in Seoul is still happening. You were going there to see, wow, this is something different that comes across. So this is, I think that's interesting to compare how the different offices do that in a way. And all the offices look very carefully to each other. Let me be very clear. They steal away people. They get stagiaires. They have, they're better than Facebook in getting all the information from everybody. There is and yes, we are aware to give also space for each other, because there's a careful equilibrium there. It's a research on itself that could be done. As a good, for one of you that is going to do the marketeer career, whoa, this is quite something.
WikiLeaks for architectural offices, yeah. Yeah. But this, what you mentioned about this mix of competition and collaboration, which are in between offices, I think this is kind of also the new agenda which we see, that all offices are kind of very competitive to each other. You have no choice, you should be. On the other hand, there is more and more, even in between competitors, some kind of the collaborations. Yeah, so that's weird mix of competition and collaboration. I think also it's kind of this new fusion, which is.
Well, if you filter this, on a kind of higher level, then I would even say that the whole architectural community enters a kind of moment of a new Siam, that we share more than we dare to say. And that is, most of us talk about ecology, digitization, shared communities, etc. And still find the small niche in that, to have this very careful balance in that.
Well, it's kind of everything which is digitalized can be stolen. So in this case, it's better to give it by yourself.
Спасибо большое за этот ответ. Если еще у нас
Thank you for this answer. We have room for one more question.
Да, я вижу вопрос.
Oh, I see the question over there in the corner.
Мой вопрос не подразумевает длинный ответ.
My question does not presume a long answer, but I would rather hear yes or no. Would you hire yourself as a young specialist, the way you are now? Would you hire yourself young? You know?
Maybe are you asking me if I should apply for a job at Strelka KB? I don't get your question.
Would you hire yourself for a business? If you would come to your company as a stagiaire, but you're young, would you hire yourself young to your company as a young stagiaire for your company?
I think, for me, it's easy question, yes, but it will be answer why. Because when I start making the office, I was creating the space which I cannot find. So it was the idea of creating some office which I would like to work with or in. Yeah, which I can't find, in Russia before. So for me, it's kind of the dream job. Of course, I will join it. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's an impossible question. I agree with you, because I'm almost so fanatic and so much like if I am born as this kind of office that I cannot give you another answer. I would, if I would relive, I would do maybe the same, but in another way. That could be because of the times have changed in that way, and so I don't put myself into that question where are there places where I should like to work? That's maybe another one, which and there is
NASA.
I wouldn't mind to work with you for a moment or work in your office. I wouldn't mind to work also to do some tests in Dan's office. Hired. Wow, that's a fast job to do that. I would love to work on the fragments of the World Bank. I always had a dream to I love the International Court in The Hague, especially after meeting last week one of the directors who is defending the human rights so much in that way that I say, I should have done that. So there are on the planet things which I indeed would have liked to do, or what would I, yes, it's good to paint for yourself, also that kind of catalog of things that you would like to do. I don't solicit to become president of the US. That is one thing I'm not going to do, or here, but that's, but the politician, I think there are examples. Tomorrow evening, I will speak with Edi Rama in Albania over the national park system of Albania, and I really adore that place in its energy and the way how he does it. And then I think that was an artist that became, say, president in that way. And that I think some these kind of people I wouldn't mind to have followed their trajectory sometimes. This is the list of possible job opportunities that I missed.
But the good thing is that you can solve this problem collaborating with these organizations. So, and that's what actually we do, I think. That's okay, we are not in, I don't know, NASA, World Bank, whatever, but we collaborate with the organization in which we're interested in. And so it's also kind of this interchange, give a lot of a new experience.
And you can. So that's what also you want to say, that if you wish to work on a certain level, and of course there's a lot of things to do to make that possible, then I must admit that, say, the dreams that I had when I was 20 and I couldn't choose between, at that moment, between becoming a lawyer or becoming an architect, that I wish to have that kind of collaborations, that now, somehow, after a while, yeah, then you can work with these girls and guys, and it makes sense also to do it. So I hope that this illustrates a little bit that that when you organize it a little bit and you work on it and you be open and you do it with more people, then yes, you can speak out, and yes, you find this other jobs that I couldn't fulfill, and it will. So that is what I hope this talk inspires you to get that done.